2 weeks from tomorrow, you are going to be asked whether or not you want to vote on a sales tax increase when that money will go towards roads. To talk about it is Joe Miller, Show Me Institute policy analyst. Good morning, Joe Miller.
Morning.
Back by popular demand, filling in for David Stokes. First of all, what are we voting on? What's the percentage? It's
a 0.75 cent sales tax, and that can go to any transportation project in Missouri, although, of course, most of it will go to fix the original MoDOT funding problem. So we're talking highways and bridges for the most part.
So 0.75%.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any idea how much that will be on an average? You know how they do, and it's going to cost an average a Missourian how much? So it's almost 1% of everything you buy in the state of Missouri, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to come across ways of calculating it, doing back-of-the-envelope calculations, and it can be probably for the median income, maybe up to $100 per person.
$100 a person.
Maybe more.
Yeah, and going to, and you editorialized there for a second, going to the funding problems of MoDOT, so roads and bridges. What else would it go towards?
Well, by my calculations, approximately 15% of it is going to go towards other transportation projects. So in St. Louis City, there's going to be a streetcar that parallels the Metrolink from downtown to the Central West End. A giant chunk of the money is going to go to a streetcar project out in Kansas City. A lot of it's going to go to small airport projects around the state. I mean, there's a lot of different small projects around. They get kind of funny when you sort of look at the pricing of them, but they're all over the place.
Gotcha. All right. So the vote is in August. What can we deduce? This was put on the ballot. Most people say gas tax is the way to go. However, they put it on for the sales tax, and then Governor Nixon wanted to put it on in this off election. I don't understand his reasoning. He wants it to fail, or why did he put it on this election as opposed to the main one come November?
Well, it's my understanding that he is against the sales tax, he's
against
not in
this.
support of it.
Okay.
I think he came out and said that. I'm pretty sure of that. And I think that this placement on the August ballot is perhaps maybe something to hurt the sales tax, although I'm not sure that is an actual thing that's going to happen.
Gotcha. Now, you, as a representative, as a policy analyst of the Show Me Institute, are against this vote.
That's right.
Why?
Well, we consider that using a sales tax to pay for mostly roads and bridges in the state is unfair and economically unsound. Somebody who drives maybe a little bit or maybe walks to work shouldn't have to pay as much to rebuild I-70 as somebody who drives a lot, or perhaps more than an interstate trucker. And it's an economically unsound approach to paying for roads because by subsidizing driving, which is essentially what using a sales tax, but using shopping to pay for roads does, you're going to cause more of it. That's going to cause more sprawl, more congestion, more pollution than you otherwise would have had. And the increased demand for those roads is actually going to cause more road degradation and more need to expand the highways as time goes on. So MoDOT's costs are actually going to increase faster than they otherwise would. So these are not good ways of going about this.
You have said on this very show that the roads in Missouri are not as bad as people think.
Well, I don't know how bad people think they are, but if you compare Missouri's roads nationally, they are quite competitive. I mean, we often talk about how Missouri's middle of the pack in a lot of ways. The state's sometimes even behind, but when it comes to the roads, multiple national organizations have ranked us in the top 10 for road quality. So that's definitely a good thing. And if you just compare Missouri to itself, so compare the road system of today to the road system of 10 years ago, it's vastly improved. A lot of money's been spent, and as a consequence, we have a pretty decent road system right now. So while there is a funding problem at MoDOT, there's no crisis. The infrastructure is not crumbling.
It's hard because I'm reading an article in the Post-Dispatch, and a former transportation commissioner was saying that our roads and bridges are bad and they're getting worse. So when taxpayers hear something like that, and then, we hear, like you were saying, other people saying, surveys saying that our roads really aren't that bad, it's difficult a choice for taxpayers.
Frankly, I don't know. There is no empirical evidence for that statement. I sometimes hear it that the roads are getting worse, but so in the last 10 years, we went from major highways in good condition from about 44% to like 88%. We went from, from 3,000 bridges that were considered deficient, so needed to be either repaired or replaced, to 2,000 bridges. We increased the quality of the rural roadways. We've expanded lane mileage in the state. In no area, even in safety, I mean, traffic deaths are down quite a bit over the last decade. There is literally no area of the road system that's worse than it was 10 years ago. And I don't know. They don't really have any empirical evidence. They just come out and say that the roads are crumbling, but as a matter of fact, they are not.
What about Highway 70? Granted, anecdotally, you drive Highway 70, it's bumper to bumper across the state. It seems like when I go into southern Illinois or I drive in other states, the roads are much better. They're much less crowded. And it looks to me, anecdotally speaking, Joe, that Highway 70 needs to be completely redone.
I completely agree with that. That's definitely one of the things. When I say that the roads are in good condition, I mean just generally statewide. There are specific needs, and there's always going to be specific needs for a road system. And we need to set up the funding that's necessary to pay for those things. So Highway 70 is an excellent example. Broadway Bridge in Kansas City is another very good example of this. But in terms of the overall system, we're not facing a crisis. What we're facing is a situation where we have some specific needs for the state. Overall, things are good. And then we have a funding problem moving forward. So we need to find a solution to that. Highway 70, Highway 44, 6440, they're not going to go into a sinkhole next year if the sales tax doesn't pass. We have time to come up with a solution that is both fair and economically sound.
Elected officials will tell you, or the people say the reason why it's a sales tax and not a gas tax is that gas tax doesn't poll very well.
Well, I don't know that polling leads to good policy, but I think that one of the reasons why, I mean, there's one degree which is sticker shock, like to raise the gas tax to the level that you would need to raise the same exact amount of money from the sales tax is about 13.6 cents.
Okay.
Less if you chuck out some of the streetcar projects from the thing, then it comes down to like 11.5 cents. But there's a lot of sticker shock from that, even though in the end you might end up paying more from the sales tax than the gas tax, depending on how much you drive. But the thing is I think that people sort of they see what they're getting from the roads, and they know the gas tax, or maybe they don't know the gas tax goes to that. But in any case, I think that they really haven't done a good job convincing people of all of these projects. And I think the sales tax is kind of an end run around that. It's basically saying, well, we haven't really convinced you that we really need all of this work done, but so we're just gonna charge you a little bit, this tiny percentage. Granted, it's on everything you buy, so it's actually going to come out to a lot of money, and maybe more than the gas tax, but it's just a little bit. So and you get all these goodies, so just vote for it.
You guys watch this stuff more closely than the rest of us do. Joe Miller with us, Show Me Institute policy analyst. And everyone brings this up, when they passed the gambling in Missouri, that money was going to go to education. That money went to education. That means the money that was going to education could be taken out and go to other places. If this passes and this dedicated sales tax increase goes to transportation funding, does the other funding, could that possibly then be taken out to go somewhere else?
Generally speaking, no. So the money that there's a couple different ways you pay for roads and bridges in Missouri. One of those is motor vehicle sales tax. That's already sort of eaten up by the bonds from Amendment 7 that were passed in 2004. So those got to be paid back. The gas tax has to pay for the roads. In fact, not only is the gas tax not going to have other money shifted around, the sales tax projects, if you go and read this excellent project list, which we just finished tabulating in a way that you can actually look at it systematically, is so over the course of 10 years, this is going to raise about $5.4 billion. However, that $5.4 billion is actually contingent on another $866 million being raised by local governments, over $300 million just in St. Louis City alone. So not only are they going to need all that are they getting all that money, and is not other things being diverted, they're actually requesting more money coming out of local governments to pay for the projects that are on the list that you're about to be taxed for.
What about if the feds come and say, here's a chunk of change for federal highways and roads and bridges? Will that somehow deduce the number of the sales tax revenue that we take?
No. When the federal government comes and says we're just going to go bonanza style on this like they did with the Stimulus Act, then the money will just sort of increase. The amount that MoDOT will get will just increase. or the amount that local governments will just increase, like it did when they did the stimulus bill. So if they were getting up to $1.1 billion a year for construction, and the government said we're going to give an extra 0.5, then it's going to be 1.6, and they'll find a place to spend it.
Gotcha.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of jack. So 0.75% sales tax, August 5th.
0.57, isn't it?
0.75.
It is?
0.75.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it's three quarters of a percentage
I thought
point.
it was 5.
Yeah.
So basically, everything you buy in the state of Missouri that it has sales tax acceptable, minus food, right? Because food isn't sales tax, is it?
It depends on where
What type
you buy
of food
the
or whatever. Yeah. So if it's sales tax approved, that means almost 1%, 0.75% more. Your sales tax is going to go up. Which, where are we in terms of sales tax? We got to be high on sales tax around the state, around the country.
Well, we are in the if you just take the state sales tax, it's not quite that high. But if you take the state average, so because local governments, I mean, St. Louis City, you can definitely walk into places like I did this morning where the sales tax is above 10%. So I think nationally we are in the upper. I think we're in the upper quartile for the sales tax, but this certainly will increase our position there.
I mean, the sales tax, 10% of what you're buying plus 10%, that's a lot of money. I mean,
It is.
5%, but I mean 10%, that's a lot of money sales tax-wise. So, all right, Joe, when can we read you? When can we see you?
Well, you can read all our work on this at showmeinstitute.org or showmedaily.org. And you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at JEMiller768.
And you're the transportation expert? Is that your bailiwick down there?
I try to do good work on transportation, but I also do other forms of infrastructure as well.
Okay, good. Joe, always a pleasure, my friend. Way better than David Stokes.
Oh.
Way better than David Stokes.
Never replace them.
850.